Your next weekly paper will be your first revision. One of my goals with the structure of my class is to let you experience what it's like to be a quote-unquote real writer, which means that you write a lot of garbage and ultimately only put effort into revising and editing the stuff with the most potential. So you'll be picking one of your 3 essays to put that extra effort into. I'm not saying that 2/3 of the papers you've written this semester so far are garbage, just that 2/3 of the writing most people do is not necessarily worth the time and effort required for revision. In the simplest terms for this revision, you will select one of the 3 papers you have written for this class. You will develop it, make it longer, and revise it, make it better. The goal is to take one paper and help it reach its full potential. Before we go any further, I'd like to clarify our terms here. What does revision mean for you? For many students, revision is editing and proofreading, making sure all your sentences have proper punctuation and grammar, checking for clarity of prose, that sort of thing. But that really isn't what revision is. Revision is about re-seeing or revisioning your project. Revision should give you a new perspective on your essay. It might mean honing or developing your themes, adding dialogue or snapshots. It might mean completely reorganizing the structure of your essay. It might mean starting and ending the paper differently. It might mean starting from scratch and trying again. Revision does not skim the surface of what you've already written. Revision often knocks down the walls and rebuilds from the foundation up. Yes, it's more work. Yes, it's frustrating work. And yes, it can yield some really awesome results. Granted, sometimes you only revise to go back to the original. The writing process is just like that sometimes. You might be wondering which paper to pick to revise. Earlier, I said to pick the paper with most potential. You can interpret that a couple ways. It could mean the paper that needs the most work of the 3 you've written. It could also mean the paper that you feel is the best and most worthy of developing into something longer and more perfect. A note on the logistics. When you turn it in, please include the original version of the paper. I will make it possible to upload more than one file. This way, I won't have to hunt through old papers on Moodle to compare and contrast. Make it easy on me and I'll go easier on you when I grade. Other logistics, the paper should be 4 to 5 pages in length with a badass title. It will be due on Sunday at midnight on Moodle. Again, please upload both the original and the revised version of your paper clearly marked so that I can tell. That will help my grading so much. And if you want to be really nice, take some time to highlight your changes. It will make my grading easier and put me in a good mood as I grade. If you're struggling to find ways to expand your paper, let's talk. I'll ask you tons of questions and you'll realize there's a lot of details trapped inside your head just bursting to get out. You can email me, call me, text me, or meet with me on Zoom. Ask for help. That's what I'm here for. One thing to note about this assignment is how I'll be grading it. This is the evaluation criteria I'll be using to grade these revisions. Look at the point distribution. You'll notice that half the total points go towards your revision efforts. This assignment is less about the final product and more about the challenge of making real changes to your paper and taking it to the next level, regardless of the potential risks involved. I will reward greatly the student who takes a big risk and fails over the student who makes barely any changes but still has a great paper. I like the risk when we come to revise. If you take a look at the pacing schedule for this week, you'll notice you'll be participating in a peer review workshop. Please plan to provide workshop feedback to your partner by Wednesday. That way they have time to incorporate your recommendations before the revision is due on Sunday. If you miss the workshop, you miss it. There is no making it up. I've provided instructions for peer review in the email, but one of the things you should keep in mind is that the writer's toolbox is something you can use. Another thing to consider is what kind of person you want to have read your papers. You probably want someone who has taken the time to read your paper with attention, someone who has constructive ideas for improving the paper and helpful comments about what's working. You probably want someone who is kind while also providing feedback. The thing is, as a peer reviewer, you have to be that person for someone else. So as a peer reviewer, your job is not to edit your peer's paper, but instead to look at the paper in a global sense. That means helping your peer develop and streamline their papers. Don't worry about misplaced commas or formatting. That should be the very last thing a writer tackles, and worrying about editing too early can make it harder to make the necessary changes. So focus on that writer's toolbox, snapshots, thought shots, dialogue, and exploding those moments. When I do editing on my papers or revision on my papers, I will use actually these little symbols to indicate what I think I should do for each paragraph as I improve it. If you look at this example, this revised page, I've only really gotten to maybe about right here, halfway through that first paragraph after I have gone through and developed it. Good luck, and don't forget to contact me if you have any questions. Happy revising.